Freedom Island. Got the door open, and it makes it kind of cold in my room here, but I want to hear if Evandro gets back. He went off to church. They're doing their committee on holiday programs and figure out how much money they're going to put in and so on. And he's in charge of that, so he went off for a couple hours. I don't want to be recording on this with the door shut and I don't know he's back. It's not like I don't trust Evandro, but I don't know him. And the things I'm talking about here is not good to have somebody here unless you absolutely know somebody and trust somebody with that information. It's funny, when I was starting to say it was kind of cold in here, I almost was thinking it's kindly cold, which is not something I ever really said. And Mom and Daddy didn't say it, but you know who said it was Bessie. We had to learn to call her Bessie and not Aunt Bessie. I always thought that Bessie and my mom were sisters. But what everybody knew, except they didn't tell me, was that Bessie was my grandma. She was Mom's mother. Bessie got pregnant with Mom so young, she was 14. When a young girl got pregnant like that, they used to go away for a while and pretend like the mom had another kid. And that's the way we did in our family. But over time, everybody knew it, except they didn't tell me. I don't know why. I guess they thought I might get pregnant when I was 14 if I knew you could, or they thought I didn't know that people had sex even if they're not married. I'm not sure what they thought. We had a television set. I knew you didn't have to be married to have a baby. It was on all the soap operas and so on. So by the time I found out that Aunt Bessie was really my grandma, it was just so complicated. Like to call her grandma after I called her Aunt Bessie my whole life. And she was kind of frail. You know, she didn't have good health and she didn't live to be but 56. So it was just easier to call her Bessie. And people would play like that was just a grandma name, like a sweet name, you know, like Mama or something like that, you know, because there's like a grandma and then there's another one that's got to have a different name so that kids know which one they're talking about and stuff, you know. And sometimes they give them a kind of like a mountain name, you know. When my mom and her family was growing up and stuff, they had more old-fashioned ways. And they would have their name that was on their birth certificate, but a lot of times they had a name that they called them that was some part of their name or some thing about their personality or how they looked, or I don't even know why. Some of them had names and I don't even know why it was. And then sometimes you find out a long time after that. We had an uncle. Daddy had a half-brother or something. I can't quite remember. His family was kind of scattered out. His daddy died when he was little, and his mom got married again. And then the families didn't live together. It was kind of complicated. And some of them were more connected up, and other ones, we didn't hardly see them and stuff like that. So even though it was my uncle or my half-uncle, we didn't hardly ever see him. But I knew who he was, and his name was Willie. It wasn't William or anything. They wrote W-I-L-L-Y on the birth certificate. But for some reason, which I didn't understand when I was a kid, they called him Bell, like ringing a bell. And I found out a long time after that, he worked at the phone company, and the phone company used to be called Bell Telephone. But, you know, by the time I got born, it wasn't Bell Telephone anymore anyway and all that. So you never know with my family on either side how a person would get their name. So it wasn't that surprising to people that my grandma would be named Bessie. And whenever Bessie didn't know about something or she wasn't sure about something, she'd say, I kindly think, or I kindly got confused. It sounds like you're not sure some way. And that's how I've been feeling for a while. So I kindly can't tell if I should keep all my secrets to myself or whether I should tell Evandro some of my problems and situations I got going on. But I'm so nervous now because I found out that I had a tracking thing on my phone, and somebody or other had put it on my software or in my apps so they could look and see where I was at. And I spent about 2 weeks where I couldn't sleep at night thinking, was Uncle Boyce just right outside my door? I don't know exactly when he got paroled or when he gets paroled, if he ain't out already. But they let him out on all kinds of a different schedule with emergency since COVID, and they're short-staffed at the work center, and they're short-staffed at the prison. And they're giving people early release and letting them out. And sometimes they get them mixed up. They don't know all their numbers and stuff like that, and they let a big lot of them out all at once, you know? Like when they take the water down behind a dam, and sometimes they just know ahead of time they got to let some water out so the dam don't bust down, and they just let everybody know they're going to pour out so many 100,000 gallons of water or whatever, and that's going to wash down, and they have to let some go. And they don't want to, but on the other hand, it'd be a lot better with the water than it would be to have the dam split or bust up on you and the water come pouring down with no clue, you know. So I guess that's what they're thinking sometimes when they do some of these prisoner release. They're supposed to let everybody know in their family and stuff if they're getting out, especially if you got a complaint against them or you testified against them or something like that. But that's not what happens in real life. Partly, they're just got a lag, so they let them out and then they tell you afterward. I've known people that didn't know that somebody that murdered somebody in their family was out of prison, and then they went in Kentucky Fried Chicken or something, and there was the person just sitting there eating. Nobody told them nothing. And then they got a letter a month later telling them that person was out. Well, they already knew because they already seen them. And then, like I was saying, sometimes the numbers, they move them around from facility to facility, and they're supposed to have their main number that they're supposed to have. But sometimes they reassign them numbers for reasons I don't understand what it is. And sometimes they don't have the number matched up with the name good, and they set somebody out they didn't mean to set because they were number 10234 instead of 10235. So you just don't know if somebody might be out. I think I would have heard. I look on the computer and then go on Facebook and stuff like that, and I know enough people in my neighborhood that's got problems with my Uncle Boyce and enough back history with him, and they're afraid of him, and I ain't seen nothing about anybody mentioning him or not being any pictures with him or discussing him or anything like that. So I'm hoping that means he ain't out in real life. But it didn't stop me from being too scared to sleep, where I'd wake up and I'd think, oh, he's out in the yard. He's got a big screwdriver or something. He's got to come in here and stab me. Or that's what I thought one time. I thought he took like something to fix his truck with, and I thought he was going to come in and stab me. And another time I thought he was trying to get in the window, and it wasn't. It was the wind. It was just banging the blind back and forth on the window sill, but I thought it was him trying to pry up the window. So Evandra already knows I was scared because of having the tracking thing on my phone, and he helped me get it off of my phone, which was good. So he already knew something was up, and he's already got his own worries because he don't have his green card yet. He's trying to get his green card, but he's past where he was supposed to stay. Like, he had it so long he could stay in the United States, and then he was supposed to get sent back, but he didn't get sent back. Kind of like the same thing as what I was saying about the prisoners and how they get put out of prison sometimes without knowing, and the other way around. Sometimes they're supposed to gather people up and supposed to make them go back wherever they're from, and they don't try to make them go back to their old country, and they're supposed to and let them know that they're going and pick them up and take them, but sometimes it doesn't happen. And I guess they're supposed to go down to ICE and volunteer to go back, but would you do that if that was you? I wouldn't. Evandro didn't do anything wrong, like he didn't get no notice he was supposed to go back, but he knew there was supposed to be a certain date, and he didn't get nothing to say that he could stay. He's working on trying to get a green card with somebody that works with the church that's got some lawyers, and they got a foundation or something that helps pay the lawyers to help them do their paperwork and so on and so forth. So he's working on that, but he's nervous and worried. And then he came here to get away from gangs and trouble and stuff like that. His brother is some kind of drug, not a smuggler, but like he's an organizer or something for how the transport gets for some kinds of drugs. I don't even know what kind. Evandro hates drugs, so you can't even say drugs or ask. He don't want to talk about it. But his brother done something or other with it. And Evandro is worried about going back because his brother owes somebody money. He says they just care by the family. They don't care who borrowed the money. If you take money from some of them cartel people, it don't matter if it was you borrowed it. Your whole family owes it. Their whole family will try to collect it, and your whole family owes it. I don't know why the brother didn't pay. I don't know how much it is or whatever. But Evandro don't want to go back for so many reasons, and one of them is that he's scared that some of these people will come and try to beat that money out of him, which he don't have. Even if he wanted to pay him, which I don't think he does, but even if he wanted to pay him, he can't pay him. He don't have anything to pay him with. So he's got his own secrets and his own worries, and I don't think he seems like a person that would tell my secrets. But then, nobody seems like they would do some of the things human beings do in this world, you know it. I've known people where they got picked up by the police for something little, nothing to care about, but just some little thing they did. And the cop will sit there with them and say, well, I could put you in the jail for this, or I'm looking for who stole them TVs over in this other street, or who do you know has drugs, or who do you know has illegal cable, and, various things like that. They want to find out what people are up to, or if they have food stamp cards and it's not their food stamps and whatever. And they'll say if you turn in, say, one person or two persons or three persons to them and tell on them, then they will drop the charges on you. And I could see how Evandro, if somebody was trying to get him to give somebody up, he don't know me very well. And he knows I'm in NA, so he knows I got a drug record. If he was real scared, if he was worried for himself, and some real mean cop was leaning on him to tell somebody's name, would he tell them my name? I don't feel like he would, but I don't know him very good, and I haven't known him very long, and it's easy to say you wouldn't do nothing bad, but the people that say that haven't been scared. If you get real scared and you just see a person's going to hurt you, or I don't even want to go into it, just something, they could worry you, or, hurt your family or something like that. I don't even like to think about what I might say or tell on somebody or fake tell on somebody if I thought they was either going to hurt me real bad or if they were going to hurt somebody I cared about real bad. So, don't know. Best thing for me to do, I think, is just keep it quiet. And even if I am kind of freezing in here right now, I got the door open and I can hear, because he has to come around. That front door on this whole house of Vivian's is all messed up right now. So you have to come in through the kitchen door. And he wouldn't try to sneak in the house, because he knew that would scare me. He would just come in regular, Evandro. So I'd hear him. The door sticks a little on the side of the house, and then you can hear, you come in the side, and then you come up the 3 little steps that goes up to the kitchen, and I can hear that boom, 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 and then that means somebody's coming in the kitchen door. So I'd hear him. So that's why I leave the door open, and I guess it's worth it to be cold. Being a little bit cold's not the worst thing that could have happened. When I took on this idea of coming to find out what my Uncle Boyce is doing with all them criminal friends of his, just like Bessie said, I kindly didn't know what I might be getting into, and I thought it might be more worse than it has been. More dangerous, more scary, more hard to figure out than it has been. It hadn't been too bad, except for things like being a little bit too cold, having to go pay the electric bill before it got turned off, and a few things like that. But it's been all right so far. One more time to say a kindly, but I kindly forgot what I was even making this little audio bloggy thing for. I started out to do it for the caseworker because of COVID, and I was on kind of like probation, not exact probation, but something like that, where I had to make a drug treatment plan. And even though I had been clean and sober the whole time, but the court system thought, because of something my brother did, that I might be used, and they thought I was stealing stuff and selling it to get drug money, which none of that was true. It was all my brother's doings with his stuff. But it looked like it was me, and so they had to put me through the court system. So when I started out doing this and making these recordings, I had to just turn in so many, and it was to show that I was reflecting meaningful on my life experience or something, or rather to show I was getting off drugs or something. And like I said, I've already been clean and sober, but they didn't want to hear that. They wanted to hear how I was going to be a better person, so that's what I said. It was easier to get through and get out. If you got a drug record, there's nothing you could say to anybody that anybody believes anything you say. So it's just easier to just say what they think of you, unless you confess into an out-and-out crime. But as far as being like a bad person or needing to prove your personality or your character or whatever, it is easier just to go ahead and let them think you are a bad person and you're going to try to be more better like them. I learned that in school. I learned that at work. I learned that so many ways. Sometimes your smarter thing is just do the thing that works. So I started out doing this to do my casework thing, and then I got done, and they didn't quite drop the charges, but they did something, because it wasn't really charges, but they kind of parked it or shut the folder on it or forgot about it or filed it away or whatever they do. Pause, put it on pause, I don't know. I don't think it's paused, though. I think it's done. I think it's all done. But whatever it is, I don't have to fool with it now, so I don't have to make these recordings no more. But I'm doing it because spying on somebody like my Uncle Boyce to try to find out what him and his idiot friends is up to is not the most safest thing a person could do. Even if I can't get real good evidence of what he's up to, at least all of this is on my phone, and I found a place to put it on the internet and stuff. And I'll tell Lauren. I haven't talked to her for a little while, but next time I talk to Lauren, I'll tell her where these are at. So if something bad happens, at least somebody could maybe take what I recorded and, I'm sure they don't want most of it, but maybe there's a little something in here that they could use to help. So speaking of Lauren, I haven't talked to her for a couple of weeks because I've been mad at her. That whole scare thing I had about Uncle Boyce and that tracker thing, well, damn it, that was her. Like, she didn't use good sense. Lauren's impulse, like everybody around me in my life, except Evandro, I guess. He's not too impulsive. But everybody else has got, like, impulses they run on. Like a truck runs on diesel. People in my life run on impulse. And Lauren got scared that something would happen to me and she wouldn't know where I was at and she couldn't help me. And she's scared of my brother, or worried about him. I don't know if scared, but she's concerned about him and concerned about his state of his mind and choices he might make and stuff. So when my phone got lost before and then it got found, my brother had took it and he was trying to spy around on it and find out what I was doing. I don't know what he thought I was doing, but he was trying to look and see if there's anything on there that looked bad for him, I think. 'Cause he was just thinking about himself. That's not a new thing for him. That wasn't very nice of me to say, but it's true. So he couldn't find nothing on there about himself, so he was thinking about letting me have my phone back again. And then Lauren said that she would take it, and she knew another way to look through it to make sure that there wasn't anything that worried him on there. And that sounded good to him, so she took it. And what she did is she put that tracker thing on there, and she didn't think I would be able to find it was on there. She knows I'm not a very computer person. So I used to think a long time ago that maybe she was helping my brother and helping Uncle Boyce spying on me. But she wasn't. It turned out she was on my side, and she thought maybe I was helping them. And so she was spying on me a little bit. But it was because she wanted to make sure I wasn't being bad. And then she figured out me and her was on the same side, which is we're against the side that Uncle Boyce, and my brother is not as bad as Uncle Boyce, but he's, somewhat on that side too. He can't decide what he thinks, I guess, my brother. He goes back and forth, back and forth. And it wasn't right for him to take my phone and keep it. That wasn't his. That's a scary kind of controlling. When I went to NA and we had workshops and some stuff we had to do, and I didn't mind some of them. And we had one about how to tell if somebody is like a controlling type person. And one of the things is they try to take your phone or your computer and stuff like that to cut you off, because you know how in real life a person is like that. They'll watch you when you go to the grocery store, or watch you if you're out in the yard in case you might be talking to a neighbor, or trying to go someplace by yourself without them or something like that. Well, another thing is they try to take your phones and your computer and stuff like that because they're scared you're going to talk to somebody besides them. And that was what my brother was doing. He said it was looking for things about him, but I think he was also I think he kind of takes after Boyce. Like, Boyce don't think he's bad. Uncle Boyce does not think he is a bad person. He thinks he is a brave warrior. He thinks he is a man who stands up and takes charge of things when other people let him go bad. He thinks he sees what the truth is and what needs protecting, and the reality that he believes in, and that he is saving his family and the country and the white race from trouble. And my brother ain't as bad as that, but he thinks he's like Daddy, and he's nothing like my dad. He ain't like Daddy in any way, but he thinks he is, or he wants to be like that. And he got some idea that, I think from hanging around with Boyce, that he ought to stand up and be more like that. And he's plenty forceful. My brother's plenty forceful. It's not like he's some wimpy person that people pushes around and that people tell him what to do. That's not what he's like at all. He's not like that. I don't know where he got some idea that he needs to stand up strong and loud and be a jerk or whatever. That's not necessary. I don't know any man in our family that I know of that, that I had regular contact with that act that way. They look down on the people with the truck that, farts out big black oily smoke on you at the intersection and peels out without looking, and high-hatting, putting their hat back on the back of their head, and, putting a bunch of more guns than anybody could ever use in the back window of the truck. And, the men we was around, they didn't feel like they needed to do any of that stuff. And I'm not saying my brother's doing that exact, but, I did find them tactical clothes and stuff in his truck. He's got like a thing where, like, if he was a little boy and he wants to be Batman, only now he wants to be tactical. And it's scary because it's messed up his whole personality and everything. So when he had my phone, that's what he was doing. And I think Lauren knew it. And she didn't think she was being like him by taking my phone and putting that tracker on. But I think she was acting somewhat like him. You can't fix something by doing what the person that you're trying to overcome does. Do the exact same thing, only you feel like more right or like a better person. I mean, it's not easy to be a right, good person. I know that. And do everything just exact by the book. I know that. I understand that. It's not like the movies, cowboys and got a white hat and a black hat. And, of course, a black hat's got to be bad because, that fits right in with Boyce and my brother, haha. But I know life is complicated, and I don't expect anybody to be like a superhero and stuff. And sometimes you got to lie a little bit, or you got to... I just got done saying a little while ago about how I let them people in the court system think what they wanted to think. I didn't get in there and advocate for the truth, like I must speak the truth. I am like the Statue of Liberty holding up my, torch of truth. Like, I'm not stupid.